Welcome back. I'm getting kind of just kind of done with waiting for the other room to be available for me to use. I may just take the computer out of there and just use the rec room I was using before for videos. I've certainly got pictures on the walls there that I can use as the backdrop for entertainment guy videos. But for today, on the Hockey Guy set, and I want to talk about Love Is Blind season 4. So finally finished season 4, got through most of the reunion show. My gosh, one thing that stands out when you watch Love Is Blind and also Perfect Match, Nick Lachey might be a perfectly decent guy, may very well be very talented, not a great host. Vanessa in that reunion special, and I had heard a lot of negativity towards Vanessa coming out of that. I can't disagree with any of it. There were a number of times Yvonne and I watching it last night were like, why is she still talking about this? This has already been discussed. And then half the time it didn't feel like she was listening to the answers. Like it hosting is not about like there was one point where I said to the TV, "It's not about you, Vanessa. It really isn't. Move on." They've moved on. Why haven't you? The other thing that was awkward was the special, the reunion was filmed a year after the show had finished filming the show. So for most of these people, I mean, just imagine you go through this whole social experiment, and a year later you do a reunion. Well, most of it, your life, you've moved on. I mean, these are young entrepreneurs. These are people who are based on where they live. They're pretty well off in Seattle. So yeah, I mean, are they still single? Maybe, but still. The weird thing with this show is that there's 30. Although by my count, I went through the cast list. There's 31. So somebody's on the list who didn't actually show up on the show, or maybe they did have 16 of one, 15 of the other. I don't know. But either way, there are 13 that I would consider to be main cast. But I want to start with the supporting cast. Amber was not on the reunion show. They just wanted to get into all the dirt on everybody. Where I think the show misses as well, and so there are some misses with Love Is Blind. We never get to see most of the cast. They come in, you see a couple of things they say. There might be something funny, there might be something offensive that gets said during one of their blind dates through a wall, and then you never see them again. And I thought it was really bizarre that none of these people were back for the reunion. We never found out anything about any of them at all. And I feel like, and even the cast, the main cast here, most of them being at the reunion, said, yeah, you didn't see everything. And they would start with, yeah, you didn't see the important stuff. So the show is edited weird, and it's something I've noticed with reality TV. I've started looking for continuity errors. So let's say, for instance, I've got my arms folded from one angle on the camera, and from the other, my arms are down at my side. And then as the camera switches, my arms switch, meaning one of those is from a completely different time than the other, or at the very least, it might be out of sequence. And I do wonder how many things they show us out of sequence. I even said to Yvonne at one point, I said, I don't know what the timeline is for any of this because they're not, they, and this is where the reality part of reality TV kind of fails. And it's too bad because the idea of people talking through a wall and falling in love through that wall, it's an interesting idea. The idea of love truly being blind. Now, the other side with the Love Is Blind thing too, most of them are very good looking people. So it's not like when the curtain comes down, they're like, oh no. Although there was one of those, and we'll talk about that. So the main cast, I guess we'll go through the main cast, but again, I felt bad for Amber. She was a nice girl. It was with Paul she was with, right? And Paul decides that he's going to go with Micah instead, and it was too bad. I honestly think looking back, Paul may have made the wrong choice. But I want to go through this. So you have just alphabetically, you've got Bliss. Bliss ends up with spoiler alert, right? So if you haven't watched this, go watch it. I'm sorry because it's a long show, but then come back. So Bliss ends up with Zach, but Zach initially asked Irina to marry him. Now Irina is awful. Throughout the show, she's terrible to people. Now I know there's creative editing, and I know they likely made her look worse than what she was, and yet Zach has already said numerous times what we see on there of her being horrible to him is only maybe 10% of what actually happened. And they keep talking about Mexico. Irina didn't really have an answer to it other than, yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Zach said she went on there to get famous, and everybody in attendance was like, ooh. And it's like, I don't know how much of a damning indictment that is. A lot of people go on reality shows to get famous. The Perfect Match, it is made up of an entire cast of people who are kind of famous for being famous. So Zach realizes he made a mistake with Irina. They cut it off after Irina was horrible to him for quite some time. Now, she, to her credit, she did show up at the reunion. She did her best to gloss it over as well as she could. I don't know if I buy any of it from her. I don't. I really don't. There were things she said where I'm like, she's saying that because the camera's on. But again, that is something that is the thing where people will say, cameras on them, they'll be different than they are when the camera's not on them. Um, and I'm a YouTuber, so that's the case for me as well. I may very well talk completely different when the camera's not on than I do when the camera's on. So yeah, for Zach, he ends up going to Bliss, and Bliss marries him, and Bliss is gorgeous, and she's a wonderful lady. Um, when Zach said I do, I was like, you better, because seriously, be foolish not to, after what Irina put him through, and for the fact too that he broke up with Bliss in the pods, what they call the talking through the wall thing, and she still took him in. She still said, all right, I'll marry you. And her dad apparently has accepted Zach. It's been a year, so of course she has, or he has. And then there's Brett. Now, Brett and Tiffany were my favorite couple from the very beginning. From the very first episode, I was like, all right, these two seem like nice, grounded people, and I buy it. And the whole way through, there wasn't any kind of problem. The show makes it look like in one of the teasers that there's a problem on their wedding day. There really isn't. It's they make it look like it's some kind of a drama between Tiffany and Brett. It's not. There's none. There's no tension at all. I do wonder how much they talk and how much they're allowed to say, and if there are certain things they can't say. I wonder how long the cameras are around once they're out of the pods and they're home and they're living their life at home. I do wonder about all that because clearly there's a lot of stuff we don't see that they don't show us, which is the non-reality part of reality TV, right? So you have Brett, you have Tiffany. They're married. They're happily married by all accounts that I've read. Chelsea ends up with Kwame. Kwame had feelings for Micah. Micah broke up with him. As it was stated on the reunion, he felt it was edited wrong, that he was ready to break up with Micah as well because he was going to go with Chelsea. But they definitely made it look like Micah broke up with him, and it made it look like Chelsea was the backup plan. Chelsea is very smart, very well spoken, really, really well put together as a human being who can help Kwame out. Because it does look like for Kwame, there's moments where he might be a little bit more um, hard to rein in. I'm trying to think of a better way of putting it. But either way, I like them as a couple. It definitely made it look like he was very hesitant. He made it clear on the reunion as well. That's not accurate. And it's funny because both of the Lachey's just didn't care. They just, anytime that somebody in the cast was like, so that wasn't accurate, that's not how that happened, it was edited in a way that made it look like something it wasn't. And the hosts never once said, oh, well, I can't believe they edited it like that. And I think that's the unfortunate part. I don't think you have to edit this creatively. You just have to show us how this goes and be honest about it. You don't have to manufacture drama. I know reality TV likes to do that. There are moments when I'm watching Chef Ramsay shows where I'm like, they're just trying to manufacture drama here. There's no reason for this. Like, the other thing too is when there's this really dramatic, tense music playing, I always wish and I always hope that at some point in one of the reality TV shows that, you see a couple talking and everything seems okay, but there's ominous music. And I want to see either the male or the female involved in it look around and go, well, you're saying all the right things, but there's ominous music and I know I'm not screwing around. So what's going on? Like, I wish they could hear the music that's playing over whatever scene that they're in for the show. But yeah, so Chelsea and Kwame are together. Irina, by all accounts, she's not with anybody. I don't even know what the point of bringing her there was, other than to berate her. It doesn't seem like there was anything else to it, because again, as somebody who viewed the show, I didn't really listen to much she had to say. You have the Jackie, Josh, Marshall triangle. Jackie clarified that she didn't go out for coffee with Josh till she'd broken off with Marshall. But it was clear too that there were a lot of texts being sent. There's texts from Jackie about Marshall that have leaked out to the public, because and I got the feeling watching this show too that you would see people's friends, and I'm like, a lot of makeup on their friends. I think their friends want to be on next season, or their friends want to get into the reality TV business. So they might be looking at this as, hey, there's a camera crew around. I'm going to get myself all made up, which is understandable. You want to make sure you look good for the cameras, but maybe in the back of their mind thinking, I could do this. I could do this. So for Jackie, she ends up not being happy with Marshall. It was clear it wasn't going to work. Even early on, she was like, Marshall isn't the type of guy I normally go out with, but I'm going to give him a shot. And as soon as I heard that, I thought, there's a reason you don't normally go out with guys like Marshall. Marshall, really nice guy. Wears his heart on his sleeve. Probably too nice for Jackie. She's not really into the quiet type. And it felt like she was looking for a reason to end it. And he gave her a reason, which on the reunion he basically disputed her take on why she left it. But yeah, it was done. So Jackie now is dating Josh. The weird thing to me with this show is, so you go into the pods and then you can meet them by getting engaged. Like, all right, we're gonna getting, and then you got to get married on the TV show's timeline, where the TV show puts you to get married. It is a bizarre concept. So I meet this young lady, and let's just say that I'm still in my 20s. Let's just go way out there, and it's possible, and it's something Yvonne and I talked about before watching it. It is possible to have a really good connection with somebody. Be like, I want to hang out with I want to date them. I want to get to know them. But on the show, it's you have to want to marry them. And if you don't want to marry them, then we're going to make it look like you're a villain in this. When you've known this person for a couple of weeks, like they date in these pods, and then they go to Mexico on a little vacation together where they create more drama, and then they go home. And in this case, everybody lived in Seattle or Portland, and there you go. And you've got like a week now, and you're getting married. And okay, here's all your families. And anytime that a family member would be like, "This seems really fast. This is crazy," you'd get the ominous music, and basically would frame it like, "This guy's kind of a jerk. Listen to this." But I understand. Like if I was engaged to somebody that I hadn't actually seen, people be like, "Are you okay? Seriously, dude." So I came out of last night's too feeling bad for Micah. So Micah and Paul did not get married. Paul basically gets to the altar and says, "Eh." And you know what? I think he's right. Micah spends half of her time in Scottsdale, Arizona. She spends the other half of her time in Washington State. Now, I didn't like Micah in the pods. I thought she was manipulative. Again, this could be editing. I'm just saying straight out. I thought this could be editing too. She laughed at inappropriate times, though she's explained since then. She laughs as kind of a coping mechanism, like something's uncomfortable. She just kind of laughs about it. It's nervous laughter, but it made her look bad. So somebody's crying, she'd laugh. You're this bad thing happens, she laughs it off. It just looks bad because everybody else is upset and she's giggling in the corner. Now, Irina was laughing because she generally doesn't seem to take things seriously. And if somebody's heartbroken in the corner, she thinks it's hilarious. So, and she kept referring to it as a game show as well, and talking about winners. And I'm like, I don't think there's winners on this. You get married. It's a legal contract. I mean, I guess, right? Like if I went on this and I didn't find anybody, it's not like if I met somebody who got married coming out, I'd be like, oh, you won and I lost just because I didn't find somebody I connected with. So Paul says no to Micah. Micah in the reunion says she would have said yes to him, but they really put her through the ringer. They went over all kinds of stuff. Like Micah has a conversation with Kwame while they're down in Mexico that was hashed out over the show. Chelsea said her and Kwame talked it over, that she talked it over with Micah, but Vanessa wouldn't let it go and just kept trying to get in there. And I felt like they were trying to create this dramatic confrontation, which reality TV likes to do. They want those dramatic confrontations. Another conversation I've had with Yvonne about especially with Hell's Kitchen. It feels like they don't just get like great chefs; they get chefs that have a temper. They make sure they're sprinkling in people with a temper in almost any of the shows that Chef Ramsay's on. Not like I'm gonna grab a knife kind of temper, but people who spout off and get angry and yell and scream a lot because it's dramatic TV, right? So you have the dramatic TV, and that's what you want. And on this show, there were a couple of occasions where you could see glimpses of tempers from some people, where I said, I don't know how nice these people are away from the camera. And then you get into the Who, and this is where and I don't mean the band either. I feel bad because you have, and again, got this from a website of the cast. One of these people may not have been on it because, by my count, there's 31 names on the board. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Nope. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. No, there's 12 here. There you go. Somebody somewhere in the comments can be like, I counted, bro. You got 12. All right, so there's 30. So 12, 1. So you have basically 5 couples and then 2 interlopers on the board there. So the Who cast, these are people you see very, very rarely at the beginning. They don't come back for the reunion. I have no idea what happened to any of them. April, Ava, Bill, Brandy, Chris, Connor, Jack, Jimmy, other guy named Josh, who went by JP, Juan, Cassia, who apparently reached out to Marshall after Marshall broke up with Jackie, and they may have seen each other a couple of times and it didn't quite work out. I thought that would have been interesting to see. Kendra, Molly, Monica, Quincy, Ryland, and Wendy. That is 17 people who are barely seen on the show. Basically, they're there at the very beginning when they're showing us all the speed dating, and then if somebody's crying in their men's or women's quarters, or somebody's upset, you'll see them maybe with the guys that are playing pool, having a beer. One thing that's come out with this show too is that apparently a lot of alcohol, not a lot of sleep. So the temperament that we saw in the pods, I kind of shrug off and say, well, if they're not getting enough sleep and they're being given a lot of alcohol and not a lot of food, that's not a great combination. And it doesn't give you the reality. If you want the reality, like for instance, apparently at one point they ran out of water. Cast didn't have, the water wasn't working, so they ordered bottled water. So the producers intercepted it and put some alcohol in the bottled water. Because why not? So there is definitely some things that they could work on this show. I think it would be more entertaining if they didn't try to make it sensationalistic with all the fighting, and just show us more of the people that we barely saw. There's no reason they can't. The reunion was a bloody hour and a half. Are you serious? And all it did was just, I feel awful for Micah. It's one of those things where when I'm watching a reality show, and somebody's upset, I will turn to Yvonne and say, is it okay if I give her a hug? And she's like, well, she's not here. I know, but I feel bad because this show's just treating them awful. And it does happen. So, yeah, I will say I haven't watched the first 3 seasons. I'm not planning on it because I've seen enough spoilers on the first 3 seasons, but when season 5 rolls around in about a year's time, I would think a year's time anyways, I'll probably watch. But I think they need new hosts. I think they need new setup. Bachelor in Paradise Canada gets started this week, so I'm going to be watching that one because it's fun. It's fun, and so because I know there's going to be people like, well, why do you watch this? Well, because it's just one and done. There's so much of a commitment now to watching series. Like, okay, I'm going to watch this episode, but I have to watch absolutely every episode to know what's going on because every show now is a soap opera. So since every episode is a soap, or every TV show is a soap opera, it becomes a major commitment. And in this day and age, it feels like shows just don't last anymore. So you get into a show and then it's canceled and there's a cliffhanger. With reality TV, there's no cliffhangers. It's not like you're going to have to worry about Hell's Kitchen getting canceled halfway through the season. Like, oh, we're down to 6 chefs, but screw it. Ratings are down, so we're not going to do it. Survivor, yeah, no, they're still on the island because we got down to 6 left and the ratings were just in the tank. So I don't know. We assume they're still alive, but we got canceled, so we just kind of pulled up shop and left, which would make for a very entertaining series, but, potentially deadly, so you don't want people to die in reality TV. At least I don't think so. We haven't got to that point yet. But yeah, so I'm going to talk at some point too about Perfect Match and get into that one. Perfect Match is just ridiculous. It is. It's like if you're looking for grounded reality shows, Perfect Match isn't grounded, but it's some fun guilty pleasure, and that's what this is. It's like, I mean, I've said for years, wrestling is a male soap opera. This is sort of the, I guess, because I know a majority of people that watch these are going to be women. It's sort of their. It's not the same. It's I'm trying to find a comparison. It is very soap opera ish. It is reality ish. It's not reality. It's not. But I will say that coming out of this, Brett and Tiffany were two that I said, you know, if Yvonne and I could hang out with the two of them, that'd be great. They are awesome people. Chelsea, fascinating. I think she would be really fascinating to talk to. Kwame would be a lot of fun to talk to as well. Hopefully, the marriages that were formed on this show last, but we know they usually don't. It feels though like there's a better success rate with Love is Blind than there is with some of the others, and it may be because they do all the talking, which apparently can be up to like 20 hours a day. So that's a lot of just talking, talk dating. And you've got like, it feels like in the beginning they have to talk to everybody and then they start weeding people out. And these people either got weeded out or pulled themselves out and said, ah, it's not for me, it's not here. It is a bizarre setup, but it's entertaining. So there you go. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, as always, especially if you watched it. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. And again, I came out of this feeling really bad for Micah with the reunion. That was awful. That was just, you know, it was a hit job. It was absolutely awful. She was unpleasant at points. I didn't think she deserved that treatment in the reunion. But let me know your thoughts. Hey, thank you guys so much for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.